Something profound died when we stopped going to the movies together. For over a century, cinema functioned as humanity's dreaming temple. Darkened spaces where strangers gathered to share visions, creating what we've explored as a powerful technology for shaping collective reality. But what happens when the temple becomes 10,000 private shrines? When the collective dream fractures into a billion individual nightmares and fantasies? The death was gradual, then sudden. First came home video, allowing us to time-shift our viewing. Then DVDs gave us pause buttons and commentary tracks, breaking the spell of continuous experience. Cable multiplied our choices, but streaming delivered the killing blow, transforming cinema from communal ritual to private consumption, from shared mythology to personalized content feed. We gained convenience and lost something ineffable, the power that comes from dreaming the same dream at the same time. This isn't nostalgia talking, it's recognition of a fundamental shift in how consciousness-shaping technology operates. When we watched Jaws together in 1975, an entire generation simultaneously recoded their relationship with the ocean. When we stream Stranger Things separately in 2023, we might share memes, but not the primal, collective reimagining of reality that comes from synchronized nervous systems processing the same mythic content in real time. The shift from theatrical to streaming represents more than a change in distribution. It's a fundamental rewiring of cinema's consciousness-shaping power. McLuhan would have recognized this immediately. The medium has changed, so the message has changed, so we have changed. McLuhan distinguished between hot and cool media, between figure and ground, between the medium and its message. The movie theatre is, a hot medium delivered in a cool environment, high-definition content in a kind of womb-like space that encourages psychological merger. Streaming, on the other hand, inverts this. It's a cool medium, interruptible and controllable in a hot environment. Our bright, distraction-filled homes. That inversion, well, it changes everything about how the content affects consciousness. Consider for a moment the phenomenology of theatrical viewing. You enter a darkened space, a literal camera obscura. Your pupils dilate. Your brainwaves shift toward alpha frequencies. The enormous screen fills your visual field, making escape impossible. The sound system vibrates your body, creating somatic involvement. You're surrounded by other humans breathing, gasping, laughing in sync. This isn't just entertainment, it's a technology for producing altered states of consciousness at scale. In the theatre, we surrender individually, but dream collectively. The shared gasp, the synchronized laughter, the held breath of hundreds create what anthropologist Victor Turner called communitas, a liminal state where social structures dissolve and new possibilities emerge. This is why films could function as such powerful tools for reality creation. They weren't just showing us stories, they were creating temporary communities united by shared vision. Turner studied rituals across cultures and identified this communitas as essential for social cohesion and transformation. Traditional societies achieved it through initiation rites, seasonal festivals and pilgrimages. Modern society achieved it through cinema. The movie theatre became our secular temple, our electronic campfire, our technologized tribal gathering. When the lights dimmed, social hierarchies temporarily dissolved. CEOs and janitors, teenagers and retirees all became equal participants in the collective dream. This equality mattered for the hypersigil effect. When diverse consciousness pools process the same archetypal content simultaneously, it creates what Rupert Sheldrake might call a morphogenetic field, a pattern that influences how reality unfolds. The civil rights movement gained momentum partly through films that allowed mixed audiences to experience racial injustice together. Environmental consciousness spread through movies that let millions simultaneously witness Earth from space or, nature's destruction. Streaming atomizes this process. We watch alone, pausing for bathroom breaks, checking our phones, half attending while folding laundry. The ritual aspect dissolves. More critically, algorithms ensure we're not even watching the same things. Netflix's recommendation engine creates what we might call reality silos, custom-curated mythologies that reinforce rather than challenge our existing worldviews. The algorithm is anti-communitas. It's designed to give you more of what you already are, to reinforce your existing patterns rather than transform them. If you watch romantic comedies, it won't suggest harsh documentaries that might expand your reality tunnel. And if you consume conspiracy content, it won't offer balancing perspectives. The algorithm creates a mirror maze where you encounter only reflections of your current self, never the other that makes transformation possible. This algorithmic segregation has, profound implications for collective reality. When we all watched the same 3 television channels, we shared a common symbolic vocabulary. Water cooler conversations weren't just social bonding, they were reality coordination sessions, ensuring we inhabited roughly the same mythological landscape. Now, your Netflix homepage might be unrecognizable to your neighbor. We're not just watching different shows, we're living in different worlds. TikTok represents the logical endpoint of this atomization. Cinema, compressed to seconds, viewed in isolation, algorithmically sequenced to maximize engagement rather than meaning. If cinema was collective dreaming, TikTok is collective ADD, fragments of fragments, each user lost in their own infinite scroll of micro-narratives. The TikTok experience is anti-cinema in every way. Instead of sustained attention, it demands constant novelty. Instead of narrative development, it offers dopamine hits. Instead of communal experience, it provides parasocial intimacy with creators you'll never meet. Most critically, instead of you choosing what to watch, the algorithm chooses for you, learning your preferences with each swipe, creating an ever-tightening feedback loop of desire and satisfaction. Yet TikTok might also represent cinema's future, not in form, but in function. Its algorithm is arguably the most sophisticated reality-shaping engine ever created, capable of spreading behaviors, beliefs and aesthetics at, unprecedented speed. A dance trend on TikTok can achieve fuller cultural penetration in days than a blockbuster film achieves in months. The platform has sparked political movements, fashion trends and mental health epidemics. It's the hypersidual process, you could say, accelerated to digital speed and freed from narrative constraints. But here's the paradox. These platforms have also democratized reality creation. Morrison's hypersidual concept becomes accessible to anyone with a phone. A TikTok video can reshape reality as effectively as a blockbuster, sometimes more so because it moves at the speed of virality rather than production schedules. We've gone from cathedral magic to cottage witchcraft. This democratization cuts both ways. Yes, anyone can now attempt to hack reality through media creation, but without understanding the forces they're invoking, creators become sorcerers' apprentices, unleashing energies they can't control. The teenager who goes viral experiences a kind of ego death as their identity is consumed and reconstructed by the collective. The meme creator watches their creation mutate beyond recognition as it spreads. We're all casting spells, but, few understand the grammar of magic. The platform economy has also created new forms of exploitation. Where Hollywood at least paid its reality engineers, filmmakers that is, TikTok extracts free labor from millions of would-be hypersidual creators. The platform, you see, profits from the collective reality-shaping work, while creators scramble for crumbs of monetization. It's consciousness capitalism at its purest, extracting value from human attention and imagination while returning, the minimum viable compensation. The consequences for collective reality are stark. Without shared narratives, we lose shared reality. The culture wars aren't just political disagreements, they're symptoms of fractured mythologies. When we streamed in separate rooms, we began dreaming separate dreams. And when we began dreaming separate dreams, we began inhabiting separate realities. This fracturing manifests everywhere. Families can't discuss current events because they literally consume different versions of reality through their curated feeds. Dating becomes difficult when potential partners don't share basic symbolic references. Political compromise becomes impossible when each side inhabits a completely different mythological universe. We're experiencing a Tower of Babel moment, but instead of languages, it's realities that have multiplied beyond mutual comprehension. The pandemic accelerated this process exponentially. Locked in our homes, we retreated deeper into our algorithmic bubbles. Streaming became our primary window to the world, but each window showed a different view. Some binged pandemic films and emerged more fearful. Others consumed conspiracy content and emerged more skeptical. Still others escaped into fantasy and emerged disconnected from consensus reality entirely. The same global event produced, radically different experiential realities based on media consumption patterns. Jung's collective unconscious assumes a certain coherence, archetypal patterns that unite humanity. But, what happens when algorithms slice that unconscious into micro-demographics? When the hero's journey becomes, 10,000 different journeys with no common destination? The archetypes remain, sure, but they speak different languages, wear different masks, serve different masters. The fragmentation goes deeper than content. It's temporal and attentional. The theatrical experience enforced what we might call temporal sovereignty. For 2 hours, the film owned your time completely. Streaming enables what researcher Linda Stone calls continuous partial attention. We watch while cooking, texting, gaming. This fractured attention prevents the deep psychological engagement necessary for mythic transmission. The archetypes can't take root in consciousness that's constantly task-switching. Moreover, the binge-watching phenomenon creates a different relationship with narrative time. Where weekly TV episodes allowed for integration and communal discussion between installments, binging compresses narrative time while expanding consumption time. We spend 8 hours consuming what was designed to unfold over months, creating a kind of temporal indigestion that prevents proper psychological processing. Yet, something new is emerging from the wreckage. Fandoms create their own ritual spaces online, generating collective effervescence through synchronized viewing parties and shared hashtags. Memes function as a new form of collective imagination, spreading archetypal patterns at digital speed. The temple hasn't disappeared. It's been distributed, networked, made rhizomatic. These new formations are, fascinating adaptations to digital conditions. K-pop fandoms coordinate global streaming parties that, in a way, recreate some of cinema's communitas through synchronized action. Reddit communities dissect shows frame by frame, creating collaborative meaning-making that, honestly, exceeds what any individual viewer could achieve. And Discord servers become mystery schools where initiates decode the esoteric meanings of their chosen media properties. The meme ecosystem, in particular, deserves attention as a new form of collective unconscious processing. Memes aren't just jokes. They're sort of compression algorithms for complex cultural information. They spread archetypal patterns faster than any previous medium, creating shared reference points across otherwise fragmented audiences. The "This is fine" dog became a universal symbol for denial in crisis. Galaxy Brain created a new way to discuss levels of consciousness. These aren't just images, they're cultural DNA, replicating and mutating as they spread. The real danger isn't fragmentation itself, but unconscious fragmentation. When we understood cinema as collective ritual, we approached it with, appropriate gravity. Now we consume visual narratives constantly, casually, without recognizing their reality-shaping power. We're all casting spells all the time, but we think we're just scrolling. This unconsciousness makes us, well, vulnerable to manipulation. Every swipe, trains the algorithm to better hijack our attention. Every binge, honestly, reinforces neural pathways shaped by corporate interests. We become addicted to narratives that profit others, while frankly, impoverishing our own imaginations. The old Hollywood at least admitted it was manufacturing dreams. The new platforms pretend they're just neutral pipes, while actively engineering addictive experiences. The mental health implications are honestly staggering. Rates of anxiety and depression, well, they correlate with screen time and social media use. But this isn't just about blue light or sleep disruption, it's about consciousness fragmentation. We're trying to maintain coherent selves while, consuming incoherent realities. We're attempting individual meaning-making without collective frameworks. We're drowning in stories while really starving for myths. Platform capitalism has weaponized this unconsciousness. Every streaming service is engaged in what we might call reality warfare, using sophisticated behavioral psychology to colonize attention and shape desire. The algorithms aren't neutral, they're optimized for engagement, which often means amplifying fear, anger, and division. We're not just watching different movies, we're being programmed by different reality engines. Netflix's algorithm doesn't just predict what you want to watch, it shapes what you want to want. By controlling the thumbnail images, the order of presentation, even the trailers it shows, it creates desire before you're aware of choosing. Amazon Prime's X-ray feature, well, it trains us to consume metadata while watching, fracturing attention further. Disney Plus leverages nostalgia to keep us trapped in childhood patterns. Each platform becomes, a different wing of the reality programming prison. The attention economy has realized that consciousness is the ultimate commodity. Where previous capitalism extracted labor or resources, platform capitalism extracts being itself. Our capacity to attend, to imagine, to dream. It packages this extracted consciousness and sells it to advertisers who use it to shape our behavior. We become batteries in our own matrix, but instead of generating electricity, we generate data about how to better control us. The path forward requires conscious navigation of this fractured landscape. We need to recognize that whether we're in a theater or on our phones, we're participating in reality creation. The question becomes, how do we maintain coherent collective dreams in an age of infinite individual channels? First, we must develop media literacy that goes beyond understanding bias or propaganda. We need phenomenological media literacy, understanding how different platforms and consumption contexts affect consciousness itself. Just as food literacy teaches us how different foods affect our bodies, media literacy must teach us how different media affect our minds and our collective reality. Second, we need to create intentional viewing communities. If the algorithm won't give us community, we must create it ourselves. This means organizing viewing parties, whether virtual or physical, creating discussion spaces, and choosing to watch certain things together even when we're apart. We must recognize that synchronized attention is a form of collective power and use it consciously. Third, we must demand better architecture for our digital temples. Platforms could be designed to enhance rather than fragment collective meaning-making. Imagine for a moment Netflix features that encouraged communal viewing or algorithms that occasionally suggested content outside your bubble for conscious expansion. The technology isn't inherently fragmenting, it's the business model that makes it so. Some filmmakers are experimenting with new forms that acknowledge this reality. Interactive narratives, alternate reality games, and transmedia storytelling attempt to create coherent mythologies across fragmented platforms. Others are returning to theatrical exhibition with a renewed understanding of its ritual power. Christopher Nolan's insistence on theatrical release isn't just auteurist stubbornness. It's recognition that certain experiences require communal witnessing to achieve their full reality-shaping potential. Jordan Peele creates films designed to spark collective conversation about race and identity. Filmmakers like Ari Aster use horror's visceral impact to ensure audiences can't multitask while watching. These directors understand they're not just making movies, they're creating containers for collective transformation. The rise of event television shows designed to be watched synchronously and discussed immediately represents another adaptation. When Game of Thrones or Succession airs, it temporarily recreates the water cooler effect, giving dispersed audiences shared reference points. The fact that people organize their schedules around these broadcasts shows the hunger for communal meaning-making. The ultimate challenge is this: can we create new forms of collective meaning-making that honor both individual agency and shared humanity? Can we use these distributed tools consciously, weaving personal myths that still connect to universal patterns? The answer might lie in what we could call conscious fragmentation, deliberately choosing our reality tunnels while maintaining awareness of the larger maze. This means cultivating the ability to code switch between different mythological systems, to speak multiple symbolic languages, to build bridges between reality bubbles. It means becoming conscious reality DJs, mixing and remixing narratives to create new possibilities. We might also need to develop new rituals for the digital age. Just as traditional societies had ceremonies to mark transitions and create communitas, we need ceremonies for entering and exiting our screens, for choosing what to watch, for integrating what we've consumed. We need to recognize streaming as a spiritual practice that requires the same intentionality as meditation or prayer. The temple hasn't been destroyed. It's been shattered into 1 billion shards. Each shard still reflects the whole, still holds the power to cut or illuminate. The question is whether we'll use these fragments to build new forms of collective dreaming or remain lost in our separate scrolls, forgetting we once knew how to dream together. Perhaps the shattering was, well, necessary. Maybe we needed to experience the isolation of individual viewing to truly appreciate the power of collective vision. You know, perhaps we're in a chrysalis phase right now, dissolving all those old forms before emerging as something new. The streaming age might not be the death of cinema's collective dream, but rather its metamorphosis into something we simply can't yet imagine. The future of reality itself, it might just depend on our answer. As we face these global challenges that honestly require coordinated response, climate change, inequality, technological disruption, our ability to dream together becomes a survival skill. If we remain trapped in our algorithmic bubbles, we'll lack the collective imagination needed to create solutions. But if we can consciously use these new tools to weave individual threads into collective tapestries, we might, just might, discover forms of shared consciousness that surpass anything cinema could ever achieve. The choice is ours. Every time we open Netflix or TikTok, we're in a way voting for a particular configuration of collective consciousness. Every viewing decision is a reality-shaping choice. The question isn't whether we'll use these platforms. That ship has frankly sailed. The question is whether we'll use them consciously, recognizing our power and responsibility as co-creators of tomorrow's myths. The lights haven't dimmed permanently, they're just flickering, waiting for us to discover new ways to gather in the dark and dream. The collective dream isn't dead, it's distributed, waiting to be reassembled by those who remember its power and, understand its purpose. The future of human consciousness might depend on whether we remember how to watch together even when we're apart.